Honourable members, the last message is from the Senate. Honourable members, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 41, I wish to report to the House that I am in receipt of correspondence from the Senate dated 22nd May 2019, conveying that the Senate has appointed the following senators to the Mediation Committee to consider the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2019. 1, Senator Mohammed Mahmoud, MP, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., MP, Senator Susan Kihika, MP, Senator Ledama Olekina, MP, and Senator Johnson Sakaja, MP. Honourable members, you will recall that on Wednesday, May 8, 2019, the National Assembly rejected all Senate's amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2019. This effectively means that the bill is committed to a mediation committee in terms of Article 112, Clause 2, Paragraph B of the Constitution. Subsequently, I appointed the following 5 members to represent the National Assembly in the mediation committee and convene the National Assembly's decision to the Senate. 1, the Honorable Eden Duale, EGH MP, Leader of Majority Party in the House. 2, the Honorable John Bandi, EGH MP, Leader of the Minority Party. 3, the Honorable Kimani Chungwa, MP. 4, the Honorable Cecily Mbarire, MP. And 5, the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, MP. Honourable members, with the appointment of the senators, the mediation committee is now fully constituted. Indeed, I have been informed that the committee has already commenced its work of attempting to develop an agreeable version of the bill in accordance with the provisions of Article 113 of the Constitution. Honourable members, you will also agree with me that the Division of Revenue Bill is critical to the process of vertical sharing of revenue between the 2 levels of government. Indeed, Article 218 of the Constitution provides that the bill ought to be passed at least 2 months before the end of the subsisting financial year. I therefore implore the Mediation Committee to expeditiously consider the contested sections of the bill and submit a mediated version of the bill to both Houses of Parliament within the timelines contemplated under Article 113, Clause 3 of the Constitution. I thank you, honourable members.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Leader of the Majority Party.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, June 4th, 2019. 1, the report of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year that ended 30th June 2018 and the certificate therein. Eldoret National Polytechnic, Coast Development Authority, Kenya Post Authority, Kenya National Trading Corporation, Kenya Law Reform Commission, Karatina University, Office of the Attorney General and Department of Justice, Water Service Regulatory Board, University of Embu, Kenya Academy of Sports and FC Talanta, Occupational Safety and Health Fund, and Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. 2, the annual report and financial statements of the Privatization Commission for the year that ended 30th June 2017. 3, the annual report of the Commission on Administrative Justice, Office of the Ombudsman for the financial year 2017-2018. 3, the National Treasury and Planning reports on A, quarterly economic and budgetary review, 3rd quarter of the financial year 2018-2019, and B, the National Policy on Sport Enhancement of County Government's Own Source Revenue, to be referred to the Budget and Preparation Committee and the Finance and National Planning Committee of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 4th June 2019. The report of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on the vetting of the 7 nominees for appointment and as High Commissioners and Ambassadors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman, Budget and Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, June 4th, 2019. Report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the budget estimates for the national government, the judiciary, and Parliament for the financial year 2019-2020, and annexures 1 and 2. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Kato, Chair Defense.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations in their report on the vetting of the 7 nominees for approval as High Commissioners and Ambassadors, laid on the table of the House today, Tuesday, June 4th, 2019, and pursuant to Article 132, Subclause 2, Subclause E of the Constitution and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2010, this House approves the appointment of the following person as High Commissioners and Ambassadors. 1, Mr. Kariogi Mugwe for appointment as Ambassador to Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. 2, Mr. Peter Katana Angore for appointment as Ambassador to Algiers, Algeria. 3, Mr. Michael Mubea for appointment as Ambassadors to Dublin, Ireland. 4, Ms. Flora Karugu for appointment as High Commissioner to Lusaka, Zambia. 5, Ms. Diana Kiambuthi for appointment as Ambassador to Stockholm, Sweden. 6, Ms. Njambi Kinyungu for appointment as Ambassador to United Nations Habitat. And 7, Ms. Mwende Mwinzi for appointment as an Ambassador to Seoul, South Korea, subject to appointment and before taking office, renounce her United States of America citizenship in line with Article 80, Subclause C of the Constitution and Section 31 as read with Section 52 of the Leadership and Integrity Act number 19 of 2012. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, on the members, before we proceed, let me, recognize staff from the National Assembly of Zambia seated in the Speaker's Gallery. The officers are on attachment in the National Assembly to share experiences with their counterparts on the process of budget making and approval by Parliament. They are welcome to observe the proceedings of the National Assembly this afternoon. 2, wish to also recognize and welcome Nagundi Deborah, the protocol officer from the Parliament of Uganda, also in the Speaker's Gallery, who is observing proceedings, as well as students from Kapulong Girls High School, Sotik constituency, Bomet County, and those from Getito Secondary School, Gatanga constituency, Muranga County, Dagoni Girls High School, Chukaigamba Ngombe constituency, Tharaka-Nithi County. They are all welcome to observe the proceedings in the National Assembly this afternoon. Honourable members, I have determined that now we have sufficient number of ourselves in the chamber to make this communication. Honourable members, I wish to invite you to a Speaker's Kamukunji to be held on Thursday, June 6th, 2019 in the National Assembly Chamber, Main Parliament Buildings at 11 a.m. The Kamukunji is intended to provide opportunity for briefing of members and discuss the progress of the ongoing disputes between the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and the Parliamentary Service Commission. This Kamukunji will also involve members from the other house. And all the members are requested to attend and observe time so that we can be able to canvass various matters. And in this regard, I also wish to, in a special way, thank the member for Homa Bay Town, Homa Bay constituency. Is it town? Is it Homa Bay City? Member for Homa Bay, I think, without knowing that, I'd already had deliberations and decided to have this Kamukunji and written to me requesting that a Kamukunji be held as soon as possible, and he has raised a number of pertinent issues, and I would indeed implore him to be present on Thursday to be able to also elucidate on a number of the issues that he has raised in the letter that he has written to me. Thank you very much, Honorable Kaluma. So, honourable members, I think that communication was delayed deliberately because I think it's fair for me to make this, to state this. In the first petition filed by some activists, the activist has not just sued the Parliamentary Service Commission, the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, the Attorney General, the Controller of Budget, the PSC commissioners, but has gone on to sue every member of Parliament. So I think it is fair that on Thursday we are all here so that we can take a collective decision. We can take a collective decision on the way forward. I think it's a matter that involves each one of us. Indeed, as you may have noticed, as you may have noticed in the petition, the petitioner has even sued the speakers and purported to claim that they also received house allowances. I don't know how he made that terrible blunder. But I think it is fair that we are all here so that we can discuss and see how best to deal with the matter. Honorable Ichungwa, you are to give notice of motion.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the budget estimates for the national government, the judiciary, and Parliament for the financial year 2019-2020, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, June 4th, 2019, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 221 of the Constitution of Kenya, Section 39 of the Public Finance Management Acts of 2012, and Standing Orders 235 and 239, approves the issuance of a sum of Kenya shillings 1,941,941,043,369 Kenya shillings from the Consolidated Fund to meet the expenditure during the year ending 30th June 2020 in respect of the votes as contained in Schedule 1. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honourable members, the first question is by the member for Nakuru Town East, the Honourable Gikaria.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to ask question number 190. Could the Cabinet 190 of 2019? Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why there is an coordinated delay in clearing imported solar-powered products and other solar energy-based products at the Port of Mombasa, which currently takes up to 60 days, thus attracting demurrage and related costs, frustrating traders and eroding the government policy on green energy? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. To be responded to before the Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. Next question by the member for Bungoma County, Honorable Catherine Wabilianga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 235 of 2019. The question is to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Part A, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that a contractor, namely Ms. Jiangzi Zongomei Engineering Construction Company, abandoned a quarry at Nabuyole Village in Webuye East constituency after extracting stones for a project, thereby endangering the lives of children and the general public? B, what measures is the ministry putting in place to ensure that the said contractor rehabilitates or restores the place to its original status, and to further guarantee that such occurrences do not reoccur in any other ongoing and future road projects? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To be responded to before the Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Next question by the member for Ruiru, Honorable Simon Nganga Kihengara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise to ask question number 36/2019, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware that public schools in Ruiru constituency are facing acute shortage of learning facilities, leading to congestion in classrooms, where close to 200 pupils share a classroom in several instances? B, is the Cabinet Secretary further aware that there is no public boarding school in Ruiru constituency, despite the high number of enrollment? C, what criteria does the ministry employ to allocate infrastructure funds to schools, and specifically when will schools in Ruiru constituency be allocated such funds to address the lack of learning facilities? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To be responded to before the Committee on Education and Research. The next question is by the member for Bura constituency, who has written to request the question be deferred on account of his engagement elsewhere, and it is accordingly so ordered. The question is deferred. Next question by the member for Isiolo County, Honorable Rehema Jaldesa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 238 of 2019, and the question is to the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. A, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that National Social Security Fund, Isiolo and Marsabit branch are understaffed? B, what plan has the Cabinet Secretary put in place to address the understaffing of the two branches in order to facilitate the residents of Isiolo County and neighboring area to access the service of NSSF? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Question to be responded to before the Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. Under members, I know it's the first day, but we can still lower the decibels. We consult, but lower the decibels. Next question by the member for Laikipia County, Catherine Waruguru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 239 of the year 2019 to the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and Technology. A, is the Cabinet Secretary aware of lack of mobile telephone network connectivity and coverage in most parts of Laikipia County, especially Laikipia North Sub-County? B, what measures is the ministry putting in place to ensure there is adequate mobile telecommunication network coverage and connectivity in the said areas by all service providers as to support economic activities in the affected areas and guarantee timely coordination of security and other emergency interventions? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Eid Mubarak to our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Very well. To be responded to before the Committee on Information, Communication and Innovation. That's the end of the question time. Next order.
Order number 8, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2019. Question to be put.
Sorry. What's the issue, Honorable Junet?
No, Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to seek your indulgence that, Mr. Speaker, tomorrow the Muslim community is observing a very important holiday. So I wanted to bring to the attention of the House to wish them a happy holiday and happy Eid, Mr. Speaker. This House has representatives of different color and religion. So I thought it's very important that we wish our Muslim brothers Eid Mubarak, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are coming from a month that we are fasting, Mr. Speaker. Some of us even disappeared from the political scene because we thought that if you abuse someone, God will not accept your fast. We are coming back now to normal life, Mr. Speaker, from tomorrow. You may see me on Thursday now dealing properly and perpendicularly with some people who have been speaking a lot when I was away, Mr. Speaker, on the fasting. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity with your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, as a House, to wish the Muslim community in Kenya a happy Eid, Mr. Speaker, tomorrow, and our prayers to be accepted so that the country can move forward. And tomorrow there is a lot of meat, Mr. Speaker. Any member of Parliament who's around can call me, Mr. Speaker. I have a lot of meat to share with you, and as a leader, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is a very important holiday to the Muslim community, Mr. Speaker. So this is a time I thought I should take this opportunity as a member of this House to wish them Eid Mubarak, Mr. Speaker. And thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. But Shungo should not come to my meet, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, well, I think the Honourable Junet took advantage of the intervention box to wish everybody a happy Eid Mubarak, which is, I think, okay. But, honourable members, you will recall that on the second reading of the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2019 was concluded on 9th of May 2019. What now remains is for the question to be put. However, before I proceed to put the question, which will mark the conclusion of the second reading of the said bill, I wish to bring to the attention of the House the following information. I have since received a letter from the leader of the majority party, the Honorable Eden Duale, requesting for my consent to withdraw proposed amendments of the Microfinance Act number 19 of 2006 from the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2019. In his letter, he indicates that this is after consultations with the Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya and the National Treasury, who have proposed to include more comprehensive legislative measures relating to Sharia compliance provisions in the microfinance sector through the Finance Bill 2019, which is scheduled to be introduced in the House in a few weeks' time. Honourable members, I have acceded to the request. This implies that the bill will now be concluded as second reading and other stages without making reference to the withdrawn provisions of the statute law miscellaneous amendment bill. In this regard, the bill should be dealt with as though the provisions proposing amendments to the Microfinance Act number 19 of 2006 were not part of the bill. I thank you, honourable members, and the House, having been so guided, I now put the question, which is that the statute law miscellaneous amendment bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2019, be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And those of the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Next one.
A bill for an act of parliament to make various amendments to the statute law. Under number 9, motion, report on the inquiry into procurement and implementation of the exercisable goods management system and an integrated production accounting system by the Kenya Revenue Authority. Question to be put.
Other members, those, if you could just take a seat, then we can. I don't like seeing people frozen, so it's better when members are seated. Who's that now? That member in blue, who is? Who? Honorable Obara, be in the House. I know you may be consulted. Be in the House. Honourable members, debate on this motion was concluded, and what remained was of the question to be put, which I hereby do. That this House adopts the report of the Public Investments Committee on its inquiry into the procurement and implementation of the exercisable goods management systems, EGMS, for printing, supply, and delivery of security revenue stamps, complete with the track and trace system, and an integrated production accounting system by the Kenya Revenue Authority laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, April 30th, 2019. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many of contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Order number 10, motion, report on the examination of the financial statements for the national government for the financial year 2015-2016. Question to be put.
Member for Arienda. Member for Mumias West. I can see you are terribly attracted to the member for Suba South. Allow me to put the question, because debate on this motion was concluded, and then you can proceed with the rest of the business. That this House, I put the question, that this House adopts a report of the Public Accounts Committee on its examination of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the national government for the financial year 2015-2016, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. Just to indicate to our members that indeed I think that committee has also done the House proud by moving with speed, and that yesterday I received the report for the financial year 2016-2017. PAC, Public Accounts Committee. I think they have done a good job. We should encourage them to move with speed. Once the leader majority tables that other report, I think we'll be getting closer to what is desirable for purposes of division of revenue. Next order.
Order number 11, the Statistics Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 37 of 2019, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Statistics Act. Order number 12, the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018, second reading.
Leader of Majority Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Office of the Attorney of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018 be read a second time. Mr. Speaker, on the onset, I want to wish my brothers and sisters and the people of Kenya happy Eid and Eid Mubarak. Mr. Speaker, the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3, was published 2nd of March 2018 and was passed by the Senate with amendments on 3rd of October 2018. And this bill, Mr. Speaker, seeks to establish the Office of the County Attorney, the equivalent of the Attorney General, not in terms of powers, but in terms of the office. And it also provides for the functions and powers of that county attorney. And finally, it provides for how he will discharge his duties and exercise the powers given to him under this act. So, Mr. Speaker, for the first time, we want to see who becomes a county attorney. Because currently, as we have, governors are recruiting even people who have just left university the other day, who are not even masquerading as lawyers. They have not even gone through the Kenya School of Law because they are employing their relatives and their sycophants. So this law is going to give the framework in how a county attorney should be recruited, his tenure of office, what are his functions, and of course the same for the Solicitor General. And if you look at part 2 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, it deals with the establishment and the administration of the county, Office of the County Attorney. And in particular, in clause 4, it provides for the office in each county, which shall be called the office of the county, which shall be an office within the county public service board, and that office shall consist of the county attorney, the solicitor general, and the county lead counsel. So this bill is appointing 3 key offices: the county attorney, the solicitor general, and the county legal counsel. Clause 5.
Order. Member for Nandi. Member for Nandi. The Honorable Dr. Tekla Tum. Be upstanding. Be upstanding. You can see where you are. And you've just come to the table to pick water. You pick the water from this side. You know, please, I've always told you that I'm always very observant. You see, you need to familiarize yourself with the rules of the House. Now you can proceed and take your seat.
Mr. Speaker, because it's the first day, and I can even see, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Wandai has come back. And Honorable Wandai was just praised by the Speaker. He's being briefed by Honorable Junet. I don't know whether he's inviting him for meet tomorrow, but of course not Kimani Chungwa. So clause 5, Mr. Speaker, deals with the county attorney. He shall be appointed by the governor, of course, with approval of the county assembly. So for the first time, now they're just appointing them and there's no approval. So if this this bill becomes law, they should be approved by the county assembly. And for a person to qualify for an appointment as a county attorney, they should have the following qualifications. 1, he must be an advocate of the High Court of at least 5 years standing. And the Speaker, we are going to amend that. the person who should be the county attorney must be somebody who's qualified to be a judge of the High Court. Yeah, so that anything that he signs at the counties must be somebody who's serious. But the bill says 5 years, because it's coming from the Senate, and these days we are used to mediation. We are going to amend it so that we go to mediation. And this time we will pick a lawyer. So he must be an advocate of the High Court at least for 5 years, but we are going to amend it and make it that he must be a person qualified to be appointed a judge of the High Court. He must have sound legal practitioner. So if you come from, some very funny universities, maybe in Ukraine, Sri Lanka, you must have gone to the University of Nairobi like Honorable Millie Odhiambo. Yeah. Or, there is a school of law in Mogadishu. So we have to say this person must be a very sound legal. It's called Lafole University. I'm not demeaning that, but we must get the best of the best to run our counties. Or maybe School of Law from Kampala International University. Must also meet the requirements of Chapter 6. That person must not be somebody who is already tainted and who will be used as a conduit by the county governments to siphon public resources. Chapter 6 provides for the term or the tenure of the office of the county attorney. And it says, shall be a term of 6 years. So after 6 years, then he has to go back to the practice of where he came from. Clause 7, provided the county attorney shall be the principal qualified for this job, he should have at least 5 years experience as an advocate and meet the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution. He shall be the principal assistant to the county attorney. Clause 18 provides for the appointment of county legal counsel by the Public Service Board in consultation with the county attorney. And Part 4 of the bill deals with the miscellaneous provisions. Clause 24 provides that the office of the county attorney shall be the depository of all the county laws and legal documents and instruments and agreements signed for and on the behalf of the county government. So he will be the custodian of all the county documents, agreements, and legal instruments. Finally, Clause 31 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, provides for the transition of the members of the current staff. So the current staff have a transitional clause, but subject to a new vetting and appointment by the Assembly. Speaker, it's a fairly small bill from the Senate, and the Senate has been complaining that we are not dealing with their bills. And Mr. Speaker, you have also, because to give you an opportunity, you have heard the Senate saying that the bills we are dealing with, they are going to challenge them in court. So Speaker, the Constitution is very clear. In Article, I think, 109, the only two persons who makes a determination whether a bill must go to the Senate is the two speakers. It's not the Legal Affairs Committee of the Senate. It's not the leadership of the House. So that power lies with you. But if we go the route they are going, then I can assure them that the route will be very rough, because they will only deal with the laws that concerns counties. They will not deal with any law that has a money bill effect. It's only this House which has a blanket. It can generate any law under the sun. So I really want to advise the Senate that let them not go that route. That route will be very, very dangerous for them. We better have a very harmonious relationship and agree. But if they go and say we are going to challenge each and every law that we have passed, then that route will be very, very difficult for them, because most of their bills are of money bill nature and within the reading of Article 114 of the Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and ask the majority whip to second, because I'm not seeing the chairman of Security Committee or legal. Oh, it's legal. It's legal. I asked the Honorable Chair. Sorry, I thought this was from National Security, but it's a legal committee. I have prepared my whip, but he will contribute to the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move and ask Honorable Cheptumo to second.
Honorable Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I second this bill. Mr. Speaker, this bill, Mr. Speaker, the Office of the County Attorney Bill is a critical bill, Mr. Speaker, for the functioning of the county governments. Mr. Speaker, the equivalent of the county attorney is the Attorney General in respect of the national government. It is the sole office which will guide, advise the government, that is the county governments. And so, Mr. Speaker, it's a very, very important office. And you realize, Mr. Speaker, a huge sum of our resources is being allocated to the counties. And these counties, Mr. Speaker, should have qualified attorney, somebody with the relevant expertise, with some experience. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill was proposing that a person qualifying to be the attorney of the county should be 5 years. Mr. Speaker, my committee spent time, and we will be moving an amendment that Mr. Speaker, that office should be occupied by a person of at least 7 years of experience. Mr. Speaker, the reason is only because this is a very critical office. Somebody who can be appointed as a judge of the High Court. Mr. Speaker, one of the reasons we also wanted to address is the fact that we needed to attract very experienced persons to occupy those offices, Mr. Speaker. And so if you are to allow 5 years, Mr. Speaker, then you will be having an attorney of the county who is not experienced, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that we also considered is the tenure of office of the county attorney. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill proposes that these attorneys should be able to serve for a period of 5 years. Mr. Speaker, we realize that if we allow that provision to stand in this law, then it means that that attorney of the county will serve only for the term of a governor, for only 5 years. And Mr. Speaker, we want continuity of the office of the attorney. So that, Mr. Speaker, once a governor's term expires, that attorney can still continue serving for another extra 1 or 2 years, who is going to provide again information and support to the incoming governor. And Mr. Speaker, again, we want to give a provision for a renewal term. So that, Mr. Speaker, as per the Senate bill, it was only 1 term of 5 years. We are proposing that attorney should be able to serve for 2 terms. 1 term, and you can renew for another extra 6 years. Mr. Speaker, this again will enable the continuity of the legal advice to the incoming governor if at all a certain county was to change governors. Mr. Speaker, another very critical issue which I wanted also to raise here is that the level, the status of the county attorney. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the Senate bill, it was placing the county attorney at a lower level, so that, Mr. Speaker, he will be actually junior than a CEC of the county government. Mr. Speaker, that office is critical. Currently, in our national situation, we have the Attorney General actually sitting in the cabinet, and we need to apply the same principle so that we have the county attorney sitting actually in the cabinet of the county assembly, of the county government. Mr. Speaker, that is important because then it should be able to guide the cabinet of the county in making sound decisions, especially where legal advice is required, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, these are some of the areas. But by and large, Mr. Speaker, we actually retained most of the provisions of the Senate bill.
except those few areas where we are proposing to amend the third reading. So that, Mr. Speaker, we have a very sound legal practice in the counties. Mr. Speaker, the same attorney also should be able to represent the counties when there's a court case. You know, where counties are being sued. You should be able to have the capacity, Mr. Speaker, to represent the counties in areas where the counties are being sued. And so, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that this is a very, very important step in the right direction, and it's a part of streamlining the devolution system in our country and enabling Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, to utilize services of legal brains through this office of the attorney, county attorney. And so, Mr. Speaker, I second and I want to request members that as we move to the third reading, even as we do contributions now, let us support this bill so that we enable our counties to work and have a legal framework that is able to move the counties forward, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, and I want to second.
Honourable members, I propose a question, which is that the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018, be now read a second time. Do I see the member for Kiminini wanting to give his first shot?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill. And from the onset, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this bill has been long overdue, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the critical bills that should have focused immediately the Constitution was promulgated, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to counties, there are a lot of legal issues going on. And we do know very well the county attorney, as we reflect from the national perspective, Mr. Speaker, is actually the chief government legal advisor. He's the principal advisor to the county government. And when we go to the counties, Mr. Speaker, you find that the governors have been appointing some of their legal advisors who are purporting to do the work of the county attorney, that they don't meet the qualifications, Mr. Speaker. And I want to agree with my other colleagues, Mr. Speaker, that this office, the holder of this office, Mr. Speaker, must have the qualifications of being the High Court judge. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, we are proposing, when we move to the third reading, we should amend the 5 years. Honorable Jeptumo talks of 7 years. If it was possible, should actually go to 10 years minimum. And I know that is a threshold of becoming, the experience of becoming the judge of the High Court. We are saying so, Mr. Speaker, because the matters that they are going to handle, they are going to be of complex in nature, Mr. Speaker. And we know very well, Mr. Speaker, this particular office is very, very important. Also, when it comes to matters of drafting. There are a lot of issues that have been going through, Mr. Speaker, in the counties. Even when you look at their pieces of legislation that have been passing, Mr. Speaker, some of them do not meet actually the threshold. And if we have the office of the county going to have this good qualification, Mr. Speaker, he can also be able to advise the governor before assenting to that particular law, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this particular bill has been long overdue, as I said, and when it comes to the issues of tenure, Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that we should always think of succession. We should always think of continuity. We know a term of a governor, he can go for the 2 terms, and a term of any government, Mr. Speaker, it is 5 years. And it is indeed important, from what the chairman had said, for purposes of continuity, they should have a term of 6 years. So that, Mr. Speaker, if the term of a government comes to an end, at least you'll have somebody who will be able to advise the government that will be coming later, Mr. Speaker. So when we move to the third reading, Mr. Speaker, it's also important at the Committee of the Whole House that we should be able to amend that particular section, Mr. Speaker, that is talking of the issue of the 5 years. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to, not 5, I said 6 years, Mr. Speaker. But from the bill, it was a mistake. I listened carefully when the leader of majority was moving, he said 6 years. But in the bill, it's not 6 years. It is 5 years. In the bill, it is 5 years, Mr. Speaker. And that's why Honorable Jeptumo, maybe from the public participation, he saw the sense of extending it to 6. And that's why some of us, Mr. Speaker, we are saying we'll be able to support that when it comes to the committee of the whole House. It is true, Mr. Speaker, this is a straightforward bill. And also, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the county solicitor, the county solicitor, Mr. Speaker, is supposed to be the assistant to the county attorney. And when it comes to the qualifications, it goes without saying, Mr. Speaker, that if you amend the academic qualifications of the county attorney, it follows without saying that we should also amend the academic qualifications of the county solicitor. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, we should also amend the tenure from 5 years to 6 years, Mr. Speaker. Because currently, Mr. Speaker, when you go to the counties, it leaves a lot to be decided, Mr. Speaker. For example, some of the counties that I want to name, you find a governor has appointed a niece, has appointed a cousin, who has just cleared from the university, Mr. Speaker, without even any academic qualifications. Some have not even gone to the School of Law, Mr. Speaker. So it is something that has been messy, Mr. Speaker, and we are happy that this bill is actually going to add a lot of value in terms of organizing the legal framework at the county level, Mr. Speaker. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Very well. Honorable Shamala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I arise to support. When this bill came before us at the Justice, Legal and Affairs Committee, our rationale was that a lawyer or advocate of the High Court, not less than 5 years standing, we didn't really want to increase the threshold, and the reasons were twofold. One, you give a chance to the youth, the younger advocates, to be able to apply, and usually advocates who have been in practice for 10 years or over have already got established practices. So it was this rationale that we used. Having said that, I also want to clarify that it's not age that describes seniority, it's when your name was entered on the roll of advocates. So somebody like Yashpal Gai, who's several years ahead of me in biological years, is still my junior as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and I remain his senior. So that really was the rationale. However, having said that, we agree that the threshold for county attorneys must indeed be a high threshold, that the county governments must be advised by attorneys who are indeed conversant with the legislation. And with those few remarks, I support.
We shall have the Honorable Atandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I want to start by saying that I support this bill. Mr. Speaker, this bill is long overdue. And if you want to see that, that we needed to have had this law in place, you need to look at how counties have performed in the recent past. Mr. Speaker, there are some programs that counties have been able to undertake, which if those counties were receiving sound legal advice, they would not have been able to engage in those activities. Mr. Speaker, one of the examples I remember is Car Sober program of Kiambu County. Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General has said that that program was funded outside the law. So, Mr. Speaker, that will tell you that counties really need sound legal advice. And, Mr. Speaker, I've gone through this bill. I want to agree with my colleagues who have said that we need a solid county attorney. Mr. Speaker, an advocate of the High Court of 5 years experience, Mr. Speaker, in my view, would not be able to give counties competent legal advice. I want to propose, Mr. Speaker, that we be able to amend this section terms of the qualification of the county attorney, so that we have somebody who has more than 10 years experience of experience. Mr. Speaker, this will be able to ensure that their county attorneys are people who have solid experience, who are able to give counties competent advice. Mr. Speaker, I want to disagree with my colleagues who have spoken before and say that in the area of terms of service, we need a county attorney who will serve for exactly 5 years. The reason being, Mr. Speaker, is that we have our turnovers of governors is very high, and most likely we will not have governors doing more than 10 years. And Mr. Speaker, as the incoming governor of Siaya, I will not trust legal advice from the former attorney, county attorney, who was advising my predecessor, the person I beat in the elections, Mr. Speaker. So I insist, Mr. Speaker, that when we are looking at terms of service, let us have a county attorney serving for only 5 years, so that if that particular governor, but with a chance to be renewed, so that if I move into office, I will not be able to trust the legal advice of the previous county attorney. Mr. Speaker, you agree with me that if we gather, I'm not a lawyer, but if we bring 2 lawyers or 5 lawyers here and ask their views on a particular subject, every advocate will give us their own views. So there's no uniformity in the area of legal, the way lawyers interpret matters. So maybe the previous attorney would mislead me and put me into trouble. So I think in order for us to safeguard the legal operations of counties, I would like to propose, Mr. Speaker, that we have this, the section on terms of service be strictly for 5 years, the life and the term of when a governor is in office. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, thank you, I support.
The Honorable Ashili Jomo, member for Mumia Assist.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support, and before I do that, I also want to join my colleagues in wishing the Muslim community Eid Mubarak. Honorable Speaker, the Muslims usually join us when we observe our Christmas, the birth of our Savior Jesus Christ, and of course we need to also join them when they are celebrating. Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with the speakers, my earlier colleagues, who said that this bill is long overdue. Honorable Speaker, and thanking the mover of this bill, Honorable Duale, by fast-tracking this bill. Honorable Speaker, a wrong and a wrong does not make a right. You'll realize, Honorable Speaker, that the bills that we refer to the Senate, sometimes they take too long. And at the end of the day, they are referred to mediation. And actually, it doesn't make sense. For us, we need to fast-track the bills that come from the Senate, so that if we have to decide whether to go for mediation, it must be done at once, so that we actually inform Kenyans on which route we are taking. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, this is a very, very important bill. The county attorney is a very, very important position, Honorable Speaker, that sometimes as I went through this bill, I was wondering what was happening in the counties without this attorney, county attorney. Because even from the swearing-in ceremony, it is the attorney who is supposed to oversee. But we have just been relying on hired services from the judges that come from the respective counties. And I think this has been the beginning of problems. Honorable Speaker, you realize that there's a lot that goes on in the counties in terms of agreements, in terms of contracts.
Honorable members, order. The members standing in the gangways, kindly take your seats so that the business of the House can proceed without interruption. The Honorable Ashili proceed.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. And also, the consultation was a bit loud. That's why I was not being heard. Honorable Speaker, I was just saying that there's a lot that goes on in the counties. Today, we have to contend with 9 billion pending bills. 9 billion pending bills of contracts and the bills that were not looked at by an officer who has been trained to do this. Honorable Speaker, for these counties to even claim that they are going to pay these bills, I think it's important that these bills are verified again so that we are sure that whatever that we are paying is actually been carried out and that the agreement is in order for both the service provider and the counties that they were working for. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, this bill is a small one, and I want to agree with the members who have already contributed much earlier that when it comes to third reading, some of us are going to propose amendment, especially in clause 4, part 2, clause 4, where they have given, they have given it an open end in terms of hiring who will work under these officers. This kind of allowance has been abused by some of our governors who have gone on to hire even officers who may not add value to the counties. If you looked at part 2, clause 4, you will see that under C, there is an open-ended saying that such other number of county legal counsel as the county attorney may, in consultation with the county public service board, consider necessary. Hiring other officers as the attorney may consider. And Honorable Speaker, when we leave this open-ended like that, it can easily be abused, and you'll find the attorney hiring even officers who may not be relevant to the county. Therefore, I think we need to close up this and specify the officers that the attorney will have to hire so that we don't waste public resources. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Very good contribution, the Honorable Washiali. We shall now have contribution from the Honorable Mwanyanje Mbeyu, member for Kilifi. The Honorable Mbeyu, not desiring to be in the House, her place in contribution will be taken up by the Honorable Kitty Chonga, member for Kilifi South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I also want to join my fellow members in wishing Eid Mubarak for all Muslims. I hope Honorable Junaid was able to follow the calendar of fasting. Sometimes I used to see him associating with some groups during lunch hours, but I hope he was observing the calendar of fasting. I wish them all the best. I rise to support this bill. Mr. Speaker, just like what other members have said, the position of the county attorney is long overdue. I am aware the concept of devolution came with very, very good motive. One of the motives was to disseminate resources to the people, because for quite some time, there are so many other areas of the country that had been left behind in development. There are more of enclaves of some parts of the country. So in sharing resources and improving other areas, that was one of the main factors that was considered. And this concept, I may say, it got quite a number of governors by confusion. Because if you look at what has been happening in most counties, including my own county, Mr. Speaker, I think you have seen of late some officers being arrested of mistakes. Fine, some mistakes could have been by mistake, but quite a number of them were equally by design because they were not informed of the requirement of the law. And for that matter, therefore, so that we may achieve the intended goal of devolution, I think we need to get people who are competent enough. And not only competent, there should be some sort of uniformity. It is actually embarrassing. You find a whole governor appointing somebody who has not even gone to the level of Form 4 as an advisor to the governor. This is happening, Mr. Speaker. And this is where we are getting the whole concept wrong. Because the law is supposed to be applied for the benefit of the Mwananchi, to benefit from the concept of devolution. And for that matter, therefore, I think the terms of reference of the county attorney need to be clearly spelled so that the mistakes that we have been realizing can actually be corrected. And I may not agree with my colleague Atandi, I think he has worked out that now that he may be the incoming governor for his, is it CIA or what? Yeah, that the county, the county attorney should serve for 5 years. He should understand that the county attorney is not going to serve his interests. He is going to serve the interests of the people of that county. And for that matter, therefore, I think for purposes of continuity and posterity, the county attorney should be given sufficient time so that issues that may have come up during his tenure can actually be mitigated in the proper manner that it's supposed to be mitigated until the realization of the objective is seen. For that matter, therefore, I support this bill, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Kitty, I'm sure you meant when you're saying there are mistakes that are mistakes and others that are not mistakes. I am sure you meant that they are honest mistakes and others that arise out of incompetence, probably. I'm sure I got your meaning very well. We shall have the contribution of the Honorable Milemba Omboko, member for Emuhaya. But before you make your contribution, the Honorable member for Emuhaya, allow me to recognize the presence of students from Cardinal Morris Otunga High School from Kandui constituency in Bungoma County who are in the public gallery today. They are welcome to observe the proceedings of their National Assembly. Proceed, the Honorable Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity you've given to me, and also take this opportunity to wish the Muslims countrywide, and more so in my constituency, Emuhaya, and Honorable Speaker, on your behalf, with your indulgence, also the Muslims in Luanda, a good Eid Mubarak. They are our people. They have always stood with us when we are enjoying our Christian holidays, and we also want to wish them well tomorrow. Honorable Speaker, I want to support this bill. It is a well thought out bill, and like many other speakers said, it should have come earlier. Possibly it should have come at the time when the county governments were created, because possibly this was one of the many missing links in the county governments, because without a proper constituted office of the Attorney General, Solicitor General, and even lead counsel, it was very difficult for these county assemblies to operate. This bill is actually mitigating all this, and it actually brings all these offices in place, and tries to put in place the powers of these offices, and also explains how these officers will discharge their duties. This is very important, because for the first time then the county governments will have attorney generals who are actually very independent. And like at the national government level, once the attorney's office is not independent, then it is an office that cannot be respected and can be hoodwinked by the executive. And in this case, as we have seen in the county governments, the governors have actually held the so-called, the phony, allow me to call them the phony attorney generals, in a way that they actually manage them or mismanage them. So this is very good. Honorable Speaker, this bill goes further to give the framework, tenure, and even qualifications. In its clause 4, it provides that this office will be there in all our different counties, and this is very good. So it becomes now a requirement by every county to have this office to advise them. Honorable Speaker, in its clause 5 of this particular bill, this bill talks about the appointment, how this Attorney General is going to be appointed by the governor, but then approved by the county assembly. This is very good for checks and balances, if I may use the language of the former Archbishop of the Anglican Church, Okulu, that without checks and balances, then the governors have the way to actually control and get the kind of advice that they themselves will be giving the so-called phony attorney generals now in existence. Honorable Speaker, the other issue addressed by this bill is the issue of the qualifications. The qualification of these people is being put at 5 years, but many members have indicated that it should be, the threshold should be risen so that it's at the level of a High Court judge. But later on, when we shall be looking at this bill at the level of the third reading, I would wish that we allow the threshold to be slightly lower, because once we have properly schooled youths or people in Kenya, young people, who have the capacity to run these offices, then they should be given a chance. Otherwise, if we raise the threshold too high, then again we shall not be developing the capacities within our own young people to start exercising. And I believe this is a good level of the county where the young lawyers who are well qualified and went to nice universities, like it was indicated by the mover, can start then practicing, so that later on, when they come up to become the attorney generals at the national level, then they would be very, very well qualified. The other issue that this bill addresses is then the issue of the term. And it talks about the term of 6 years, though one of the earlier members said that in the bill itself it's 5 years, but the copy I have here is 6 years. I don't know if we are reading from different copies, and I'm also holding mine, it's white in color. And I would want to support the term of 6 years, because this is an office that then will provide continuity. One problem that the county governments have been evil with, and especially the first governors, was the issue of keeping documents. And this is one of the functions, if you read the bill very well, which has been given to this office, such that when the first governors left office...
The Honorable Milemba, without interrupting you, and all the members who have made contribution to this, I have before me a copy of the proposed law at paragraph 6, which speaks to tenure. And I hope it is the same bill that all of us have.
6.
And it seems to provide for 6 years,
Thank
not
you.
5 years, as even the other members who have contributed earlier have seemed to speak to.
Thank you.
So proceed.
Thank you. You are with me. That's also what I've seen, and we are in concurrence. So I was actually talking about that tenure of 6 years, and the fact that then they'll provide continuity, because the governors have a term of 5 years that can be of 2 times. Then even a new governor coming in should actually get the true records of the county governments from this Attorney General, still in office. So I would be supporting the clause on 6 years and not 5 years or any other term. But again, not more than 6 years, because then the new governor can have a chance to also appoint a new Attorney General, who again then will serve beyond the period of his particular term moving forward, depending on how elections go. Also, I would want to add that though I have not seen it, and I'm sure the honorable members have read it very well, in the third reading of this particular bill, I would also be looking forward to see a clause inserted so that the attorney generals at the county level actually enjoy security of tenure. Because if they don't have that security of tenure, just like we have the attorney generals at the national level, then again, they will be whipped left, right, and center, depending on the powers and the executive in place. So that is what I also think that I will be looking for, and I want also to invite other members of government to look at that very keenly, so that we actually make this office of the Attorney General a very stable office. Honorable Speaker, without much ado, like many other members had indicated, that is a small bill, but I want to lastly talk about the issue of the work of this particular office. The lack of documents. How many times have we been told that documents that were otherwise supposed to have been within the confines of the county governments have disappeared? Today I was reading some of those documents in one of the counties, I don't want to mention names, are now loitering the streets all over. So this is a bill that is coming timely so that we can have a particular office that can be responsible for the documents of the county governments for integrity moving forward. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to support.
Very good contribution, the Honorable Milemba. The county attorney will really be the custodian of the documents and the seal of authority of the county. We shall have contribution from the Honorable Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I do support the bill and also take this opportunity to wish our Muslim brothers and sisters Eid Mubarak, even as they proceed tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, even as I was looking at this bill, I had a sense of deja vu because I thought we had actually dealt with this bill before. But I realized that it had come in the order paper severally, that is why. And so it's actually good that finally we are actually discussing it because it is timely and it is necessary that we have this bill. Other than the reasons that the members have given, I would want to say that one of the reasons that we actually need this bill is because if you actually look at the way the county governments, especially the county legislators are moving, is that sometimes they encroach on the mandate of the national government. You see some pieces of legislation that go through the county assemblies are actually pieces of legislation that are within the mandate of national government. And I know that at some point we are going to get into a crisis because people will not know whether to use the legislation at the county level or at the national level. And so if you actually have a lawyer that will be able to advise the executive even as they introduce certain pieces of legislation so that they know what their remit is and what is the remit of the national government. Mr. Speaker, I know that people have spoken to the issue of 5 years, and for me, I think 5 years is sufficient even for somebody to be appointed to that position. And the reason we say that, Mr. Speaker, especially if you are a practicing advocate, 5 years is really over sufficient for you to master the law, because a good lawyer is not really a person who has over-practiced really, but a person who also knows where to look for the law with just a little bit of practice. But above that, also, Mr. Speaker, if we are committed to youth empowerment and we keep pushing the goalpost when it comes to age, then we'll never really empower young people. I know many, I never thought about it then, but when I look back at when I became a director, founded an organization, was fairly young, became a director, a lot of things I learned on the job without management background, and ran successfully a very good organization that was had a budget which is more than annual budget of CDF. But I started the organization when I was actually a youth. So really when we limit people, then we are actually stopping people's talent development because there's really nothing magical about age. And if you actually see some of the people that are coming up with some of the most brilliant ideas, Mr. Speaker. It's the younger people who are coming up with those brilliant ideas. So we need to give them that opportunity. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I wish to support. Thank you.
The Honorable Millie, you must be one of those special people who can grasp issues irrespective of age. But I hear most of these members speaking to this office being in the interest of the public and certainty in the way things will be done. And judging from the history of those who have been appointed even before the law came in, probably they are too green, as it were, to handle the offices. But it is our business. We shall have the Honorable Mbarire to contribute to this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance also to contribute to this bill. I want to say that it is a bill that is long overdue. Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, if we had begun by having this bill at the beginning of this new dispensation of county government, a lot of the challenges the county governments are going through right now would not have happened at that time, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I am only too aware, and being a person who is interested in county leadership in the future, I'm only too aware of the challenges that counties are going through in terms of getting themselves into contracts that leave counties highly indebted, into contracts that leave counties with projects that are not probably complete. And therefore, I think it is important that we pass this bill as a house so that we can be able to take care of this particular issue and ensure that there's proper legal advice given to the county government, to the governor, before they commit themselves to any form of contracts, however small they may look, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also, it's about time, because you are aware that a lot of these counties have also spent a lot of money hiring legal services of very expensive lawyers, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very sure that is money that would probably keep the county attorney and the solicitor and probably even the entire office on salary for a year or more. So having looked at the Auditor General's report, you can see there's a lot of money spent by county government towards legal services, which would otherwise have been saved if we had a fully fledged office of the county attorney and the relevant supportive staff, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have heard many members saying that we need, officers of high standing with many years of experience. And I am persuaded by what the Honorable Millie Odhiambo has told us, and I trust her when it comes to matters legal, that actually 5 years is enough time for one to master the necessary legal experience that one needs to be able to hold a special office. And therefore, I'm persuaded that we retain these 5 years in terms of the qualifications of the county attorney, and retain the same for in the case of the county solicitor, so that also we give opportunities for young, upcoming advocates and lawyers to be able to get the necessary experience in government and in running governments, and so that we also give county governments, young and forward-looking. And Mr. Speaker, we've seen in this country some of the best ideas that have come out and that have helped this country have come from young people. So I think if we move it to 10 years, we'll be discriminating against young people. I think a lawyer who has served in the High Court for 5 years is more than experienced to be able to fit this important office, Mr. Speaker. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support and really urge this House to pass this particular bill so that we can build the capacities of counties to do even better jobs in terms of service delivery to its people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Babu, member for Embakasi East. I don't see him in the House. I'm not desiring to be in the House. The opportunity will pass to the Honorable Okwome Adipo, member for Karachuonyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Let me begin by supporting Junaid Mohammed for this tomorrow's date with Muslims. It is a very important date. It happens in my own...
The Honorable Onyonka and the Honorable Kutunyi kindly advise the member who's standing in front of the Honorable Adepo to allow him to make his contribution. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Thanks, Mr.
Yes.
Speaker.
Proceed, the Honorable.
Yeah. I was saying that in my own constituency, I have a number of Muslims, and I wish to really say that I'm with them together tomorrow, and even today, I have told them as much. And now that Mr. Junet has brought in this issue at the national level, I totally support what Mr. Junet was saying. But turning to the motion we are discussing, Mr. Speaker, I think this issue is very important, and it is time that we streamline the county in terms of legal provision for their matters of law. I support the creation of the county attorney, because I know this is going to be very useful to them. The governor plus his staff plus the assembly are going to find the position very useful to them, and I really support the idea of having the county attorney as their chief legal advisor on all matters that they are going through. We know they have had a lot of problems almost here and there, and this is probably because they don't have somebody that's legally competent to advise them in terms of agreements they are making, in terms of actions they are taking. And if we have that position, then I think they will be equipped well enough to do the work they are required to do legally and competently. Now, as far as the tenure of the office is concerned, I would very much support 60 years, which is already proposed, with an experience of 5 years to be the qualifying period for that position. I feel these 2 years are quite adequate for the type of person required to advise the county in matters of law. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to say that I support the motion, and I urge my colleagues to support the same. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me time.
The member for Kwanza.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I also want to take this opportunity to wish our brothers and sisters Muslim Eid Mubarak. Mr. Speaker, I support this bill. First and foremost, this provision should have been in the current constitution. But this is one of the omissions that we had in the beginning. No wonder, Mr. Speaker, we say let's pass this constitution and amend later. We can see the need for us to have made this provision of the county Anthony as a provision in the constitution. That notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, on the third reading, I may have to come up with a proposal that the county Anthony sits in the chamber, because we are now going to ask the referendum, and I'm sure they picked up. Mr. Speaker, I think we were also trying to say that in the future, we'll have cabinet ministers appointed from this House, and therefore, again, we'll have a provision for the Attorney General sitting in this chamber. And therefore, this is a very hard opportunity. This is a chance for us to be able to amend the constitution of the provision, this legal provision, that we have this county Anthony sitting in the chamber so that can be able to have that experience and exposure on some of this, so that he has also some guidance.
The honorable member for Kwanza.
Yes.
You must be anticipating that there will be a constitutional review in the country.
Right,
and
so.
That
Right, so.
constitutional review would then align with your hopes that members of the cabinet will be coming from the House. But we are making law for the situation that we are in currently. So I do not know whether you will, will succeed.
It's out for debate. It's anticipated, Mr. Speaker, for
Very well,
prosperity. I hope and pray that that will come one day
Very well,
in
proceed.
this House. So I'm just talking about prosperity. I'm talking about my future. And therefore, I'll have this amended so that we have the county Anthony Ashford sitting in the county assembly to be able to also take part in the deliberation at the county chambers. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the two-term of 6 years, I think I'm also agreeable from what members are saying. I think let's have some continuity so that, unlike what one member said, that when he comes in as a governor, he has to come with his own attorney general. That doesn't make sense. I think let's have that coming in, and then as an opportunity so that you can give him two terms, and if it's necessary, we can give a third term as an option. Again, I'm anticipating, Mr. Speaker, I will be able to convince my colleagues here.
The honorable member for Kwanza.
And
are we reading from the same script?
Yeah, because we're talking about the terms.
Just hold on. Just hold on.
We're talking about the terms. We're talking about two terms.
Just hold on, the honorable member for Kwanza. You are contributing that the county attorney shall have 2 terms.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Is it an amendment that you are proposing to make?
These were some of the amendments I'm going to come up with.
Oh, some of the amendments.
Seeing the situation now today, the contribution from our sister here, Madam, you talked about the huge bills that we are experiencing in the county. And we're saying, and it's true, and I quite want to agree with the member, the previous speaker, that some of the expenses that we see in hiring private lawyers to defend or whatever in legal matters in the county are so huge. You know, that that could even be able to pay for attorney for 10 or even 6 months. So therefore, we want to have this office so they can deal with legal matters as they come. Lastly and not least, the appointment of, I think we are not reading the same script. Some people are saying, okay, the youth must also be given the opportunity. But this we are dealing with matters that are of the state. Somebody must have at least 10 years experience and be qualified as a judge of a high court. I think I want to go with that because if we just have anybody getting in because of the pressure from the youth, Mr. Speaker, we may be doing the justice to this particular bill. And therefore, I support and I wish to say that we have this attorney appointed or at least voted for in the chambers and be given 2 terms and with an option of the 3rd term if he so wishes, so that we have start continuity in the legal matters at the county level. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, the Honorable Wanyonyi, I see your thoughts are very well aligned with those of the committee that is in charge of it. I'm sure you will find common ground to make those amendments when the right time comes. We shall have contribution from the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, member for Ndaragwa.
Want to start by commending the Senate.
The Honorable Kioni, could you use that next mic? The one that you're using now is not too clear.
All right. I will.
Try the next one.
Mr. Speaker, the one you want me to use is fairly short. I hope you can hear me now.
It is short, but much clearer than the taller one that.
may do some damage to my back. But all the same, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to commend the Senate for living up to the expectations of Article 96 of the Constitution. Article 96 of the Constitution clearly spells the role of the Senate. And the role of the Senate is to concern themselves with matters county. And there are many issues that are pending to date. We are now almost 10 years since we gave ourselves a new constitution in this country. And I must say that there are many, many more bills of this nature that the Senate needs to do, because the county government is not functioning. The county governments are not functioning as they should. And a good example would be those of us who had the opportunity of attending the Madaraka Day celebrations back in the county or at the county level. And you would clearly tell that there is something that is completely wrong. You will see the governors trying to take inspect the guard of honor. They are the ones trying to take the salute from the persons forming the parade. Functions that are clearly not meant for them. And the recruitment of an attorney would really help them, because even if for nothing else, they will have been told what they should do and what they should not do. And if that happens, then we would expect that those who are responsible and reasonable, and those who know why it is that they were given votes, will do as provided for in the law. Mr. Speaker, one of the other things that also came out clearly is that even the members of the county assembly have a vague understanding as to what they are supposed to be doing in the assemblies. They cannot differentiate between national projects and county projects. And they don't even understand the crucial role that
The Honorable Wanyonyi, member for Kwanza, and the Honorable CJ.
And he is very noisy.
I have a lot of sympathy for what you are discussing in loud tones, but I wish you could discuss it in lower tones so that the member from Daragwa could have his time on the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I could literally hear Wanyonyi from where I am, so you can imagine he doesn't even have the mic. But I was saying, Mr. Speaker, that the member of the county assembly also kind of, where I was, displays some level of ignorance. They don't differentiate between county projects and the national projects, and that their role is to oversight. And it is very important for those of us elected either to this National Assembly or to the county assemblies to ensure that funds are spent well. You can only oversight if it's clear in your mind who has funded which project. And you cannot be an agent to go and confuse the masses. In that confusing, you are only pushing forward, or you're actually being corrupt, even if not by changing money. Your mind is already corrupted, and if your mind is corrupted, eventually you will corrupt our coffers. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Senate for this bill. It is very important. I agree that 5 years is adequate time for the young men or ladies to have acquired adequate knowledge and experience to guide the counties. Of course, 5 years experience is just one of the qualifications. The county public service is also being given the mandate to come up with other requirements that they may wish to be fulfilled by the persons interested in taking up those engagements. Mr. Speaker, you would recall that the Constitution required piecemeal passing on the functions to the county assembly. But because of our nature of politics, the national government at one point felt it necessary to just push down all the functions to the county assembly without having built their capacity. This is one of the very crucial offices that needs to be done, because it will help the county government and even the county assembly to understand their role, what they should do and what they should not do, and also what kind of laws they can pass. I have seen some pieces of legislation passed by these assemblies that seek to compel the National Assembly as to what they should do. Really, another case of clear waste of time. And you also find them engaged in motions discussing members of the National Assembly or County Assembly or the Senate. Again, I believe with a good attorney, they will be guided as to what they should do, how they should spend their time, so that they are also seen to be accounting for the money that they are paid. Minimal remarks can come, but we will do that at the other stages. For now, I wish to restrict myself to those remarks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Chanda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One is that what we are doing at the moment is really an indicator that we were fairly slow in moving to devolution, because some of these things really ought to have been done at the very initial stages. In fact, at the onset, what we ought to have done, because the Constitution is very clear in terms of that the national government was supposed to facilitate the processes of having the county government set up. So in my view, if you look at it logically, I would have thought that the Attorney General, the National Attorney General, at that initial stages, needed to have been given resources to help in setting up AG's offices in all the counties. Our national parliament ought to have had resources at that particular time to help county assemblies start up. And that's exactly how we would have gone with this thing, to an extent that this motion, this bill that we are discussing now, needed to have been brought at that particular stage. However, Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that this is critical and ought to have been there much more earlier. The main thing that I wanted to bring around, which maybe some of the colleagues have not brought out, is the role of the AG in terms of the legislative processes that we do. AG midwives legislation between the executive and parliaments. And this is something that really needs to be there and ought to have been there in the very first stage, because county assemblies are coming up with all manner of legislations, whether good or bad, but their role, for the last 5 years, they've been coming up with legislations. And in my view, if you look at the Constitution critically, the role of the county assemblies are supposed to domesticate national legislations. So in my view, the first 5 years or so, or the first 3 years of the establishment of the county assemblies, they ought to have concentrated on domesticating the over 700 legislations that we have in this country. And that would have been done very well if they had the attorney generals. That was missing. So they have come up with all manner of legislations. Some are contradicting the national ones, and there is nobody else to check. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the AG is the repository of all our legislations and has the history. In terms of when you are coming up with the legislation, they are able to check back and forth in terms of what you are talking about existing or doesn't exist. Is it contradicting what we have or it doesn't? That kind of a role that the Attorney General plays, particularly the National Attorney General plays, ought also to have been played very well by somebody at the county level. That has been missing. So it is important that this is set up so quickly, now that it has been brought out. The other thing that I wanted to bring around is that, the issue of we are confusing the office and the person. There are some of us who are talking about the person, the AG, the person. They are forgetting that when we are looking at this, we also look at the AG, the office. AG, the office, is a big bureaucracy in this country. Our AG has all manner of departments. There's a solicitor, there's the treaties, there are issues of registration of companies and registration of associations. We have the trustees, public trustees, and all these kind of things. That is a big bureaucracy in this nation. But some of our members or some of our colleagues are talking as though when we are talking about the Attorney General at the county level, we are talking about the person that is supposed to be appointed, and that is it. For sure, there is the person, like in our national arrangement, there's the AG, the person, who is appointed through our processes that are clear, but it goes to be a policy person, a policy officer, heading a big bureaucracy. And that's exactly what we need to be looking at when we're looking at the county government. That the AG that we are setting up there is an AG that is a smaller version, but a clear replica of what we have at the national level. And when we look at it that way, and when we check again that it has been working, in my view, there's no need of coming up with all these many other proposals about the term of office and these many other things. We need just to replicate exactly what we have at the national level. We place that at the county level. If this has worked, unless we are coming with suggestions in terms of either improving or changing things that we are seeing are not working out very well. In my view, that ought to have been the situation. The idea of a governor coming in, going, and another one like the AG must transcend more than one governor and all those kind of things. That contradicts the arrangement that we have at the national level. So, Mr. Speaker, I support coming up with the Attorney General's office at the county level, and it needs to be quick. Thanks a lot, Mr. Speaker.
Royal Honorable Chanda, I'm sure you have had sight of the functions of the office of the county attorney. It is not an exact replica of the Attorney General at the national stage. If you want to look at it, you look at the proposed section 7. You will find them there. The Honorable Martin Owino, member for Ndiwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm so happy to get this bill now, and I think it's a good bill. It's overdue, but it's very good. But first of all, let me send greetings to my Muslim brothers and sisters in Dewa. We have so many of them. They have been praying for us for the whole month. It's not very easy, so you fellas in Dewa, please take those greetings. Mr. Speaker, we are not hiring a county attorney for a governor. I think the message here is very clear. So we are not talking of terms. We are talking of a system, putting a legal system that will help counties. And Mr. Speaker, I would like us to go with other offices, other appointment offices, as guided by Mongoso. We have done this for boards and for everything. So I do feel from the word go that the term that we are saying 6 years is just too much. If you have county attorney who have been conquered by one arm of this government, then you'll be in trouble. I wish, and I will propose at that stage when it comes, that we have 4 years renewable, just as we have leveled everybody who is being appointed everywhere, whether it's a board or something. But 4 years renewable based on your performance. And I agree with Dr. Chanda, let this be a system, not another political undertone. Mr. Speaker, the county attorney will help the counties. I have an experience in working with the county government. As we talk of PPP loans, counties have lost a lot of money because of haste in the documents that govern those aspirations. At the very end, you find you have signed a document that have ripped the whole county of the dollars. So I think they will help a great deal. Also in drafting and drafting the publications of legislative proposal. We are talking of two governments here, both assembly and the executive. We are not talking for one office of the governor, no. The whole county government. This is the office that's going to help them. Whether you're going in the wrong direction or you are in the right direction. Because right now, that is not offered to them. Instead, they go to other entities. This is a person that should be hired as stipulated here through the Public Service Board so that they are independent. When they are independent, Mr. Speaker, they will be able to represent even the people effectively. So he is somebody who is going to stand between the public interest for litigation matters and the county government. And they should be able to represent any complaint from the public. So that independency is critical, Mr. Speaker. Also, Mr. Speaker, this is going to be a link between the national and the county government. For example, we have national legislations and the county legislation. Who does harmonize this? That's a nightmare for the county governments. So we'll be able to see which is which. Also, Mr. Speaker, the insurances in our counties is a mess. Because again, most of insurances, the agents and all this, needs legal person to understand them. So that when covers are out there, they portray the art of the law. This is a mess, and counties have lost money. Mr. Speaker, it should be noted here also that because of the delay of disbursement from the Treasury, counties have problems with contractors, and they have been sued left and right. And the representation as we speak in many counties are private legal counsels, and very expensive. So we lose a lot of money on that front as well. So when we establish this county attorney office, as one member said, it will be cost effective, because most of those monies we are using out there would be enough to run them. I believe the qualification, however, the youth thing is coming in, the qualification for this office should be a level of a high court advocate, because legal issues also need experience. But again, we should factor in the Mongozo guideline. 5 years, yes, that's good, but also let it be at the level of high court advocate. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, this is a good bill. I think it should have been there before when the devolution was taking root, so that it could be guided. But this, as they say, better come than, later than miss out completely. I think I would only propose that amendment when it comes, that the term of 6 years can be good, but can be also disastrous. Let us relook at that and put it like we have put others. If good, renew it. If not, in 4 years, you're out of the office. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the time. Thank you.
The Honorable Wino, I'm sure you meant better late than never. We shall have the Honorable Nyenze, member for Kitui West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity to contribute to this important bill. I'll start by wishing our brothers and sisters happy Eid Mubarak, and also continue with supporting the bill. I note that the county Hatton is the replica of the NG in the national government, and that the bill states that the attorney will be the chief legal advisor to the county government and will represent it in the court and during legal proceedings. The county attorney will sit in the executive committee meetings as an ex-officio and be responsible for revision of county laws and liaise with the NG when it arises. I actually also note that it's not only the county attorney, but there will be a full-fledged legal office where the county attorney is the leader. And this is very important because in the past we have seen a lot of havoc in some of the county governments. So this is an office which would bring in law and order in the county government, because it will not only deal with the executive, but it will deal with the county government in general. So as I've said, in some counties we have seen a lot of disorder and a lot of havoc, whereby they don't seem to have any order, where they don't seem to have any law being followed, where you hear people actually getting especially tenders left and right without qualifications. So since this office will be in charge of keeping records and bringing in law and order, I think our county governments will now be orderly and there will be some procedure in place. I also note that the recruitment, my point is that recruitment for this, for the county attorney should be from the respective counties, especially where they qualify. The respective counties should be given the priority, not unless there's no one who qualifies, but if there is someone who qualifies, they should be given the first priority. I also support that, as one member said, that they should have security of tenure, because if this is not provided for, then you would have each new governor coming in just disqualifying the predecessor and coming in with their own people. And this would create some disorder in the county governments. So they should have security of tenure. I support the 5 years experience in this as judge of the High Court, and I also support the 6 years service of, the period in which they would serve, but renewable as for one's performance. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Very well. The Honorable Odworo Mbaka, member for Siaya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I want to support this bill because it is a bill that touches the hearts of many people at the county level. The position of county attorney is long overdue, and to me it is part and parcel of devolution. It is a mirror image of the national government. And so this position is going to help the counties in being organized legally. As it has already been said by many members here, counties are in a total mess. Lots of the mess that they go through would be saved if there was a county attorney to have advised them in time so that the messes don't occur. You tend to see the mess at the county level in terms of fighting for positions, even the speaker's position. They throw the speaker out, they take the mayor away, and they do all sorts of things. And suddenly, they cannot function very well. All this is based on the fact that people are ignorant of their rights. And again, because the county governments don't have somewhere to go to consult. So consultation has been missing because this position has not been there. They tend to run to Nairobi to seek legal advice, which is unnecessary. Now that we are a devolved nation, we need this position at the county level for members of the county assemblies even to consult and also come up with bills that are well guided from the attorney office. So I think it is the right thing. What is being proposed in terms of who occupies it, the experience, and the number of years he should have are all very well, because it is not strange that you could be there for 5 years. Once you work very well, and people adore or like your work, it's automatic that you get renewed. So I expect that once an attorney has been appointed and is performing very well, then it should be automatic that he's renewed, his term is renewed severally, and I know normally renew maybe twice, maybe not 3 times. The appointment will come with other offices in the county, and that will also open opportunities for new people to be employed. That will make counties even grow and develop faster. Once you have an attorney there, you have the county commissioner there, then you also have the governor there. We expect that even they will build their own houses and settle in the counties instead of residing in some other towns or other counties and commuting on a daily basis. So once you have these big figures at the county levels, I believe the counties will grow faster. They will be in themselves bigger than Nairobi or be, images of Nairobi level. These are big positions. I want to conclude by saying that even the public would love this, would like to utilize the office of the county attorneys. They have legal matters, problems of land, problems of what, this and that. And they always run to Nairobi to consult or to seek consultations from the Attorney General's chamber. So I think this is going to solve a lot of problems, not only for the county assemblies, but also for the general public who live in those counties. Otherwise, I support this bill. It is timely, it has come at the right time, and since we are soon going to be in the 10th year of devolution, this is also going to crown the success of the devolution. Thank you, and I support the bill.
Well, the Honorable Mbaye, member for Kitui East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And first of all, allow me to wish our Muslim brothers Eid Mubarak for the great day before them from this evening and tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I stand here to support the bill because we need to enhance, devolution is an ongoing process. It's a child whom will grow until some time, until at that point we can say the child is mature enough. So this is a way of supporting devolution to keep on growing. Mr. Speaker, I have an experience of working in a county government, and some of the challenges posed by the absence of this office actually should have been corrected before, actually from 2 years ago. Mr. Speaker, county governments have challenges in drafting bills. You are running a department, what they refer to ministries, and you want to draw a bill for enactment by the county assembly. And a CEO or a CEC who is not a professional in legal matters has nowhere to run to get this legal support. And this is an office that will support county government departments in coming up with legislations for enacting. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is the county governments are spending a lot in legal fees. These are governments, they will find themselves sued and suing, and the opportunity to hire attorneys or lawyers actually has been abused for corruption, and also at the same time, it's also eating heavily on the county government budgets. So the office of the county attorney, if not the attorney general of the county, should also bring on board such a department like a legal office that will take care of legal matters for the representation of the county government where they are suing or they've been sued. This will bring down the budget for representation of the county governments in legal matters in courts. Mr. Speaker, the other very important thing which has been said over and over is the qualifications. Most of these positions, Mr. Speaker, the youth have been left out, and as Honorable Meili put it, that she started a company at a very young age, and she proved that things can work from that age. Mr. Speaker, the age, the experience of 5 years, I think, should be supported for the youth to have these 47 opportunities to get serious appointment to represent their counties. That brings me to my second point, where, Mr. Speaker, the way the governors are coming from those counties, also the county attorneys should also come from the respective counties. Having a county attorney from another county, or having a Kenyan from another county going to be a county attorney in another county, Mr. Speaker, I think this piece of legislation should pronounce itself clearly about that. It does not mean Kenyans should not look for jobs across the country. But, Mr. Speaker, we've seen areas where we'll say this county has nobody who is qualified. We also need to think of lowering the grades where we don't have such a qualification. Let's go to a county like Turkana, just an example. I don't mean they are not qualified, but you find the 5-year, the level, what we are looking at, the person coming close to that may not hit the thresholds that we pegged. Mr. Speaker, we should also bring in a clause that will allow that county to lower that to accommodate one of their own to occupy the slot. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is one of the members said that, though about expectations of a new constitution, we had a time where we had the Attorney General being a member of this House, and the new constitution kind of saw the exit of the Attorney General from this House. I think we should, as now we initiate the county attorneys, it will be necessary to have the county attorney sit in the county assembly and the county attorney sit in the county executive committee, where the minister and the CCs sit to make the executive decisions of the respective counties, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, but not the least, and of very importance, is the naming. We can't say the county attorney is a replica or is an equivalent of the national, of the state's attorney general. Kenya can only have one attorney general who can deal with matters national. And I think the way we have the president and governors, and it's very clear the governor cannot be a president of their respective counties, though they are the executives. I think we need also to come up with clear names, or a clear name for these county officers or these county state officers, not to me, and to be forthright, calling them the county attorney generals, that even if there will be no friction, would not sound well for the country, having 47 attorney generals. It will be important to have a decent name attached to these officers, but not look like they are equivalents to the county, to our attorney general at the national level. Because, Mr. Speaker, as one of the members, I think it was Honorable Keone, said about the confusion, where you see a governor try to pretend to look like the president. Imagine if we called the attorney generals in the counties attorney generals, what they will pretend to be. Mr. Speaker, we will be shocked if somebody by another name will pretend to be the president. If we gave that another person the exact name of this officer in charge of this country, then, Mr. Speaker, we'll have chaos in 47 units in this country. So with a few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
The Honorable Mbiduka, you are completely right that the office of the county attorney is not a mini replica of the office of the attorney general. The roles of the county attorney are very well defined at Section 7 of the proposed law. And in fact, one of them will be liaising with the office of the attorney general when need arises. So it is very clear that the office of the attorney general is only one, and the county attorney would have to liaise with that office where need arises. So it is clear that this is not a transfer of the attorney general's office to the county. We shall have the contribution from the Honorable Obara, member for Kabondo, Kasipul. The Honorable Obara, could you use the next mic? The one that you are using now is not too clear. The one that is in front of you. Yes. One of those two, yes.
Okay, thank you very much,
Okay.
Mr. Speaker. And I also stand to add my voice in support of the bill. Before I do that, I want to wish my colleagues happy Eid Mubarak, to my Muslim brothers and sisters. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, I want to state that I had the privilege of interacting with the county attorneys in my previous life. And I can attest to the challenges that I also saw in that office. And you would find varying experiences, with some as raw as having never worked before, and yet were being called county attorneys. So first and foremost, then I support the 5-year experience, that it is critical that these officers be having a certain degree of experience in drafting, in understanding legal documents, in contracts and that. Secondly, because of the lack of experience, therefore, counties were exposed, seriously exposed to litigation. And with now the bill coming in, I'm sure the litigation levels will be decreased. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that the bill now comes out very clearly on the status of the office. And it is clear that it has been placed at the right place to give it the respect that it deserves at the CEC level. And the terms and conditions are also clear, and we can also see the structure of that department. I'm also in support of the tenure of 6 years as recommended, as this will also take, it will help a great deal when it comes to transition times. Because if it was limited to the years of the governor of 5 years, or of the office of the assembly of 5 years, then we have seen in certain areas where there are serious challenges during transition, when there's change of leadership. The bill is also very clear on who will be the custodian of the very important documents, and we now know where they will be. As it was then, everybody thought that maybe it was the CEC, finance, the governor, and we had serious challenges of documents missing when they were required. I'm also happy that the bill spells out how the county attorney will be removed, and it gives some sense of security, and not just at the spur of the moment by the governor, that it has to go to the assembly, and this is a good thing, that they have been given some, though not a tenure, security of tenure, but there is some element of security. As has been said by my colleagues, the quality of drafting has been a problem in this office. As I said, that I had the privilege of interacting, and there were instances when they were forced to now take them through the Attorney General. But with qualified personnel in these positions, this will be a thing of the past. In order not to repeat what has already been said by my colleagues, I once again support. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Very well. I now call upon the mover to reply. The Honorable Cecil Marille.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all the members that have contributed to this particular bill this afternoon. They have brought up important issues in support, and we have also had quite a number that have made suggestions of amendments that they'll bring at the committee stage, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I want to thank each one of them for the support that they have given this afternoon, and we've taken note of all the issues that have been raised in relation to this particular bill. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply.
Very well. Honorable members, I direct that the next stage in this bill to be taken at the next time that the matter will be set down by the House Business Committee for consideration. I therefore direct we move to the next business.
Order number 13, the Nuclear Regulatory Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2018, second reading.
The Honorable Marire.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I wish to request that this particular agenda or this particular order may be stepped down until Thursday, because I have spoken to the Chair Energy Committee, who says that the report of the energy of this particular bill will be tabled on Thursday, and so he thinks that it will be possible to move it from next week. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I therefore direct that the business listed as Order 13 be taken out of the order paper for today until such a time that it will be set down for consideration again. Honorable members, that is the business we had today. Honorable members, the time being 4:58 p.m. This House stands adjourned till Thursday, 6th June 2019 at 2:30 p.m.